we were serious about our faith, but we had a lot of attachments. I remember like we would leave service and hoop and then like hotbox a car and then go in and out after. That's all part of, I guess, like the struggle of the attacks of the sinfulness of the world, and then you still struggling to get to Christ.
Okay, so you left the Orthodox Church and then you came into the Pentecostal space. I'm sure you wanted to be genuine.
It's at the altar call, I'm like crying, and like it's a super emotional experience because, you know, they have like the smoke and the piano in the background. And
I don't want you to take it the wrong way. I really do think people are genuine when they do that. Welcome, our dearest listeners. We are one host short today. So, yeah. Maybe we're starting a new show, are we?
Are we?
Are we starting a new show? No.
No.
Nah, our dearest brother, Diakon Gorgorios, he has, as we talked in the last episode, he's currently still in Australia as we're recording this right now. And so he has to attend to certain matters this stuff in the next couple of days. But yeah, so for now, we're just going to have me and our beloved guest, Kaleabb. And we'll be discussing, talking about certain things. Welcome to the podcast, Kaleabb.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, Nahom. I appreciate it. And
before we start off, I do want to say this is kind of unplanned, Kaleabb.
Okay.
So I'm going to throw a curveball real quick. Yeah. So as we're recording this right now, today is February 15, 2025. Two friends sent me this video that just came out yesterday, apparently. Like, it was released on YouTube yesterday. It's called The 21.
The 21.
And it's a short animated story on the retelling of the account of the 21 martyrs of Libya.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, so for anyone that doesn't know, martyrdom is just a very, let's say, a very graphic, very harsh way of embodying the faith, let's say. And so we had recent martyrs back in 2015, February 15, 2015, where in 21 Coptic Egyptian Orthodox Christians were slaughtered for their faith, for keeping their faith and not renouncing it by ISIS extremists. So, and then there's a video of that and all that stuff. And so they ended up releasing like an animated version of just like a retelling of that account, essentially. And what's insane, the reason why this is so powerful to speak about is, I mean, the story itself is powerful, right? But then it behooves me how many miracles have occurred through the intercession of these 21 martyrs. There's a church that they have commemorate, like a church that they built in their commemoration in Egypt. Mm-hmm. And it just behooves me how many miracles have occurred. If I would highly recommend you look it up, whoever's listening right now. Look up the 21 martyrs of Libya, and you'll find a bunch of articles, BBC, Al Jazeera, about covering this, but then also like checking out the stories, like the miracles that occurred through their intercession up until now. So it's definitely, it took me away because it came out yesterday, and then today is the day that they were martyred. May their prayers be with us. Yeah. And so I just wanted to kind of highlight that off topic, just venerate them, remember them.
That's great. I actually didn't know it's today, and I've heard of miracles being attributed to them, but I've never actually looked into the stories. Like I've seen it in passing, maybe on like an Instagram post or somewhere, maybe. Yeah, but I have.
There's just one account on Instagram, Orthodox Saint Stories.
Yeah, that's okay.
Some of the Orthodox accounts, again, like when you start an Orthodox account, there's so many of them. So you have to come up with like a weird combination. There's this one account called Orthodox Ireland. I wonder what's going on in there.
They're doing
it says Orthodox and then Ireland, like the country. And then so I'm just like, but then this account, Orthodox Saint Stories, it has stories like that you mentioned, like a lot of the accounts that I found on that particular account. But yeah, so their commemoration is today. May their prayers and blessings be with us. Nice. All right, so back to our regular program. Introduce yourself. Tell us like a brief account of your upbringing up until now, I guess, just so to kind of give a background, and then we'll go into the weeds of it as we go through.
So Yeah, I guess an introduction. I mean, I was born and raised in Oakland, California. Um, I was baptized Orthodox Christian. Uh, well, in Berkeley at Medanialem, the cathedral before it was built here in Oakland by the late Archbishop Abuna Melchizedek, and
Mhm.
that yeah, that was 2001. And I wasn't really raised in the faith that much. I was in and out, like maybe once in a blue moon, and then for Mesca, that was about it. And then went to a
You
Lutheran
know what I
school for a
find
bit. Oh,
hilarious, by the way? Just I have a friend, a few friends that are not Orthodox, right? And so they celebrate mezcal because it's culturally embedded
right,
into Ethiopian culture.
right, right.
I don't know, like Merkam mezcal, like it's also part of like the Gurage culture. Like there's Kitfo associated with that as
Yeah,
well. So anytime I hear like, okay, I went to church, like I have this and I have that, I'm like, I think of my friends that are on Instagram. They're like, or Amine, the
yeah,
artist,
yeah.
even.
Even him.
So I think of that and I'm like, Malcolm Fasikan. I'm like, ah, I wonder what Fasikan means.
Yeah, they have no clue what they're saying. I never attended like a Christmas or like an Easter midnight liturgy, like a midnight service at all growing up. Like the first time I did it was when I was like 20, probably 19, 20.
Man,
And then yeah, so I was raised.
you really saved a lot of time and a lot of, I mean, you've experienced it. It's very hot. There's so many
It's a
people.
lot going on. There's a
And
lot going on.
yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah, and
yeah.
I went to a Lutheran school a bit growing up, which is cool. Like I remember a lot of my Bible stories from when I was a kid and stuff, and like from them specifically. That was like K through third grade. Went to a public school in like the white suburbs, 20, 30 minutes out of Oakland for a bit. And then I went to a private like classical school where they taught Latin and French for 3 years. And then so it was cool. Like I was actually like reading Latin when I was 11, but I forgot it all
Yeah.
now.
You read scripture in Latin as
No, no,
well?
not
Or
scripture. Just like no, it was like just texts from like it was like a thin, yeah, it was a thin book to teach people Latin basically. It wasn't like,
okay,
yeah, it wasn't
okay,
like
okay,
classical text or scripture or anything like that. It was just for like
okay.
elementary teaching. But
Mhm.
and then I went back to the white school in the suburbs for eighth and ninth grade, and then I went to high school back out here in Alameda. Went to a charter school, which was cool. And high school is, I guess, where like faith really picked back up for me again. Uh, uh, I so throughout my upbringing too, I was really close with some of my best friends. Even now are they're like Pentecostal Habeshas, and they would invite me to their services and stuff. And eventually in high school, in ninth, no, in 10th grade, I went to one of their camps. They're like retreat camps. Um, I didn't have a conversion or experience or anything there, but like it helped me like slowly grow more in their community and head in that trajectory. Um,
Mhm.
and and then after that, me and my older brother would start going to their services more and more and more. uh, and it felt good. Like everything was in English, so like I understood what was going on. I didn't consider myself Bente, but it was like it just made sense in terms of like learning more about Christianity because I didn't know that there's Christianities and sects and all these things, and
Yeah.
uh,
Quick
yeah,
question. So you said, so it wasn't an official exodus. Like you didn't officially leave necessarily. It was just more so like the more that you started to become, um, like your friends, the people that you were around were more devout about their faith
yeah, for
in the
sure.
Pentecostal space,
Hmm.
and so they started to invite you, and you just went because there were no categories in your head that you just kind of like clumped it all together. Would you say
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
Or
but like even I could like tell there's a difference. Like when one Sunday I would go to Medallion and I'd smell incense and stuff, and see priests in like fancy dress, and like, and the next Sunday I go to their service and then I'd see the pastor give a sermon with like hundreds of people in the audience, and then people coming across the rows like giving crackers and and
The
grape juice.
crackers,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. um,
Yeah.
but there was also like,
I think I walked by them once at a Walmart.
yeah,
The crackers, yeah, yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. But it was like there was definitely like a sense of realness there though that I felt because it was in English. Some of the people I saw were very like I guess earnest Christians. Like they were really devout, even though they didn't really know any better. Um, and yeah. So I started going there more, and eventually I had a like a conversion experience at a conference in the summer of 2018.
Hmm.
Yeah, I had a lot of stuff going on in my life. And it was like those are like emotional conversion experiences, I guess you can say. But
Yeah.
where you go up to the altar, they call it an altar call, where you go up, and then somebody prays over you, and then you say a certain prayer, and then essentially uh, like you accept Jesus into your heart, and then uh,
Hmm.
yeah, like that's
Yeah.
it. um, which
Yeah.
is definitely
So did you had and so how was you know I'm gonna let you continue and then I have a few threads I want to follow, but
yeah. Oh,
continue.
we're gonna go back earlier, yeah, but they,
Okay.
but yeah. So it was, I had that conversion experience there, and it was really dry after, and this is why I appreciate the apostolic way of converting people, which is through catechism and inquiring them catechism, and then growing in your community there. Because like when I after my conversion experience, like immediately it felt stale the next day. Like it's like, what is there left to do? Like what like what's going on? But yeah, and then I picked up, so that's going into my senior year now. I picked up the bass for their worship team, and I was horrible. Like I was not good at all. But
Well, how long did you end up playing?
oh, like what was that, 6 months maybe? I think.
Okay. I mean, you must have not been that bad then.
Oh well, they just needed someone. Like if they found
Oh,
anyone
they need
better, I would have
okay.
got booted. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And so yeah, it was senior year, and this is what I mean by uh like I didn't have a full conversion experience, and nor did I know any of the distinct differences. Uh, my yeah. So fast forward to like maybe February of that year, one of the guys on the, I think he was playing the drums or something else, or was like a vocal singer for them. Um, Point is that he's like a fob, so like he knows the cultural arguments of Orthodoxy and Pente or whatever. So he saw like the Mahat of the string, and he was like, "Oh, you're Orthodox," and I was like, "Not really, kind of. I don't know." He's like, "Oh, you guys worship Mary," and then it like threw me back to,
The age-old
yeah,
argument.
and it threw me back to when I was a kid and how I used to argue with my other best friend about it growing up. And then I kind of threw a fuss. I was like, no, they don't. Because like in my head, they're all just Christian. They're all just doing their own thing. And not only, it doesn't help when your family, well, at least my parents are somewhat practicing Orthodox, and there's icons all around your house and whatever. So, um, yeah, so me and him and and my other friend that I grew up with, we start arguing from the end of worship service to basketball after to dinner to going home. Like we're arguing the whole day. And then
Mhm.
I I like didn't show up for like for a while, and I just like went online and started like looking up uh Christianities, and I was getting a lot of my info from like Catholic websites too, because this is before, and I'm sure you know this too, but this is before this huge recent boom on like Orthodox content online. Like this is all
Mhm.
recent. This is not here in 2018, 2019. uh
Yeah.
like the amount of content on Orthodoxy now and online is insane. Like you wouldn't have gotten this maybe 7 years ago. So
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, I was getting all my info from them, and then I found out about the Septuagint and the Masoretic text, and I was like, oh, Orthodoxy is this Septuagint text, which is much older. They have to be right. Uh,
Hmm. Hmm.
and then I started ranting about it on Twitter, and then I came across an Eritrean guy over in Sweden who I'm friends with online, and then Deacon Henok Elias, and they added me to this Oriental Orthodox group chat on Twitter, and then they pointed me to the Apostolic and Patristic writers, and then I bought some of the books. I've been reading it ever since, and I came back to Orthodoxy. That's generally. I know
Wow.
it's a bit long, but that's generally.
Yeah, I think it's a great like outlines so that I can like pick threads that I hope people are as curious as I am.
I think
Yeah,
it's
so I what's up? What were we gonna
no.
say?
I think it's good. I think people who come back and have these like in and outs and then stuff like that. Like I think yeah, they should definitely talk about it and like because yeah, everybody's experience is unique. I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I think yeah. Usually people come back in the most bizarre ways. I have a friend that the way that he came back was he had. Have you seen those videos on YouTube where
Which ones?
they have the craziest thumbnail and it's kind of like I died and then I
Oh, I
came
used to
back to
watch those
life.
in high school all the time. Yeah.
Oh goodness, man! Like, and that's not even the end of it. Like, there's those type of videos, and then there's other ones that are like, I went to hell and I saw
Yeah.
hell, and then I came back.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, funnily enough, like a friend of mine, like that was his conversion experience, where he was he's an Eritrean, and he is uh yeah. So, anyways, yeah. So he had like just an experience such as that.
Hmm.
But then, it didn't convict him to go on YouTube and then, to start making videos about it. He just started going to like an Orthodox church, like faithfully. And then now,
Wow.
he has a spiritual father and he's constantly like, keeping up with him. And he's very
That's,
adamant about that. So I really respect that about him. And, but yeah, like for you, it was an intellectual, like it helps the intellectual component of it.
yeah.
But for him was just purely like he saw this and like God spoke to him at that level, and then it was like a switch,
Hmm.
and he said, "Okay, I have to start going more like seriously now, more deliberately." And so he just from then on, it was just he immersed himself and he's like participating in the faith fully, like so. Talking to a spiritual father, partaking of the Eucharist, and so on and so forth. So,
Yeah. See, so when I converted back, like that time period of meeting Deacon Henok online and the Eritrean guy, and coming across the patristic writers, that was like early summer 2019. But I wasn't attending a church and actually living like a life, the interior
mhm.
life, I guess, until like spring of 2021.
Yeah,
And yeah, that's something else we'll talk about for sure. But yeah, with me, even though I intellectually came back, it wasn't like I guess there wasn't a circumcised heart, right? Yeah.
exactly. Okay, so like you're intellectually there's this another guy like another YouTuber he said something similar where he said initially he was a nihilistic atheist
Yeah.
and then so he started writing yeah the
No,
greatest combination of like ways to be bro just someone that
sorry, he wrote what? He
that
wrote what?
thinks what's up.
What do you say he wrote?
No, it was he started writing like a philosophy book saying like just nothing matters, everything sucks, like just do whatever you want, whatever. And the funny thing is, or at least from his recounting of it, he started writing that, and then at the end of writing that book, he converted to Orthodoxy, like
Yeah.
intellectually, purely.
Oh.
That's the insane part. He's an Eastern Orthodox. He has an account called it's a YouTube account called Telos Bound.
Oh, I know Tilo's Bound. Well, not no, but like
Yeah,
I've seen their content. Yeah, yeah. I didn't know he.
yeah.
Oh,
That's how he converted. Like he started writing this book
what?
about like deep negative like philosophy, like saying nothing
Oh,
matters.
that's horrible. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
horrible.
yeah. That's yeah. Don't go down that road.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then I mean all that to say like he intellectually converted, right?
Hmm.
And then like it took him a very long time to actually start praying because he intellectually knew God was there, but for some reason he couldn't compel his heart to actually pray.
Mm.
And I think some people might actually feel like that. There's moments where, even as an Orthodox like me, someone that's practicing, and Father Thomas Hopko, I guess I'm giving a little bit
Mm.
of
Yeah.
he said there's this one father that said Like there are moments in one of his podcasts. He said there are moments where even as Christians we doubt like Christ is probably not there. Like God is probably not there. Like or I'm just kind of showing up for the sake of showing up, and um, but then that doesn't matter. You still like you benefit from participating in that, even though you internally don't feel that, like that the jump, the faith thing, like the connection. It's a weird thing, like internally, like your mind and your heart is just like it's separated in a sense. Like intellectually, it's there, but then it's just like there's a severed connection there. So
I get.
all that to say, like I can see what you're trying to say in terms of like intellectually believing, but then not actually practicing because you weren't compelled in the heart.
And I
Yeah,
had
I could see
a
that.
yeah, just even in my relationships with other people, I was definitely not Christian. I guess that's the best way to put it. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, the nihilism. That's interesting. That was, I mean, we spoke about this, but when I was in high school, in my senior year, after my that whole fiasco with like arguing with them about my matib and if we worship
Hmm.
saints or whatever, my other friend who played the piano, like one of my best friends, who's still good friends to this day,
Yeah.
he
Is he on the
introduced.
same band as you? Like, so you're playing the bass and he's playing the piano?
Yeah, but he's infinitely better at the piano than I am at the bass, and we were both growing up.
Oh, okay, okay,
Oh,
cool.
and
Yeah, I
like
was just gonna
another.
make a joke saying like, is he as bad as you are at
No,
bass
he's
and he's at
great at the
piano
piano.
and
No, he's
he's
really good
great?
at the
Okay,
piano. Yeah.
yeah.
Other side point though, we actually grew up playing at the same piano school too, which was also Lutheran. Um, and I remember we would go there for Christmas recitals and stuff, and after they'd have like like their mass or whatever, and I took I
I
took
get I
communion
get
there
what
like.
you're trying to say, and I think people got what you're trying to say. Continue, yeah.
No, I was gonna say I took communion there twice. I remember my dad like raging at me.
Oh yeah, you took communion there, yeah.
I remember my dad like raging at me. And, yeah, but anyway.
No, I think people can relate. I have another friend that had a similar experience where they went to Catholic school and they had mass every single day,
Yeah,
and they
it's
would,
nuts.
they would make you line up and then say like you have to take communion, and then
Oh, really?
yeah,
They force them. Here it's optional. Yeah.
yeah, no, like in Texas and Dallas, I think they forced them,
Oh, wow.
but not forced, like it, not overtly,
They force
just
them
more
to
so
attend
like,
mass,
oh
but they can't force them to commune, no?
yeah, but like they said, okay, just line up to take communion, and
Okay.
then they were little kids when they went to Catholic school, so they're like, oh,
Oh.
it's Korban, it's Korban time.
Yeah, I had a Sunday school student who asked me because he
Man.
goes to a Catholic school too. He was like, "Should I go to confession?" Because I took.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Anyway.
So such a pure time, such a
Yeah. Yeah.
fickle time being a child.
Yeah. But sorry, back to the high
Yeah.
school point though. I got sidetracked. So when I had uh so my friend that played the piano, he had introduced me a couple years back to this space in England called Speaker's Corner. I think it's like in Hyde Park where the people so originally people would go there and debate ideas and philosophies. So like in the 1800s, it was like communism or something or Marx or whatever else they were talking about at that time. And now it's kind of devolved into like just like the Muslim bros and like Christians just like trashing each other. And it's like there's no
Yeah.
civil discussion anymore. So it's horrible. But basically, I I had listened to like one or two of them, and then it kind of led me into like this existential space, and I was like, why would God make it so hard to like to find out about who He is, and there's all these religions, etc. And I had a brief like existential like nihilistic phase in my life, which lasted for like a week because like I realize how dangerous it is on my mental health, especially because like it's true. Like if you actually hold to a nihilistic philosophy as an atheist, like uh, I don't know if you get. I don't want to say it out loud, but you may as well like off yourself. Like there's
Yeah.
no.
I mean, you're right. Off because I mean, ultimately, functionally speaking, you're saying okay, just for our viewers. So nihilism, just for the record, I hope it makes
Oh
sense.
yeah, yeah,
Nihilism is just this understanding of you believe nothing matters. like or like
Potentially.
a pseudo nihilism is like when people say YOLO,
Yes. Okay.
but like
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
Like it's a pseudo nihilism. I remember this very distinctly with the arguments that I've heard constantly from Protestants in terms of when you convert, like or when they baptize you, they want you to intellectually convert. So that means like you have to intellectually believe that Christ is God,
Yeah.
and then you get baptized. Or if you like, you know what I mean? Like they don't. There's not like a
They boil it down to a set of statements and just accept Jesus in your heart, man. And
yeah,
you're
and then you have to
good.
accept that.
Yeah.
Yeah, did that ever happen to you?
This is what makes the line so blurry. Like, I could have never been baptized by them. I could have never had to give, excuse me, a set of like statements or a set of like mental statements in my head, like Jesus is God, the Trinity is real, the virgin birth, Jesus rose from the dead, whatever else. Like I would have never had to have done any of that, and I still could have been like well, not. I mean, maybe I could have been like a leader or something in their church, or I don't know. That's what makes it the line so blurred. Like, and so for me though, I never did that. Like I never had to give like a set of statements, or I never got baptized with them because
Mm-hmm.
they don't view baptism as a sacrament. So there's no efficacy imparted on the believers, so there's no reason to do it. It's just a public declaration of faith. So
Yeah.
um
Okay. So
yeah.
what? So if there was no okay declaration and you started going, um, would you say that your experience serving with them, and I mean I don't want to make that comparison, but I want to say okay, so your experience serving with them, and then your experience right now serving, is there
There's a
like a
huge
gap?
difference.
Would you say
Is there a
there's a big
difference?
difference?
Oh, massive. Yeah, yeah, for
Just
sure.
experientially.
Yeah, experientially. Like sorry, wait, what do you mean by like um
So experientially meaning like
in what
um
way do you mean like I've experienced this? Is it
so yeah, like right now, like in terms of like on the service that you're doing right now, in terms of all the ventures, like you're going to Madame, I'm assuming, right?
yeah, Sunday school and Bible studies and all this stuff? Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So that like that service and compared to the service that you've had serving with them, like after your conversion, like not overt conversion, but just like the altar call, and then you said like there's a place where there was like no,
Oh,
like
there's
it was
no
just
growth.
after the week,
Yeah.
yeah, like there was no growth. Like you're just kind of like, what do I do?
Yeah.
Like what now type of thing.
So,
And so
yeah. Yeah.
yeah, like that difference, like so the what now mentality compared to like right now you've recommitted to Orthodoxy, and so now how is there a difference,
Yeah, for
or like
sure.
have you experienced that as well, like being recommitting to Orthodoxy as well? So
hmm So, yeah, when I was serving with them, I mean, I wasn't a good bass player, but going to their Bible studies and services, it was also fun because I had my friends there. But I knew I was looking for something deeper for myself in my own life and reorganizing my life and all the other mess I had going on at home. So it helped with that. But in terms of my growth as a Christian, there's nothing there. There's no confession father, spiritual father. There is no uh liturgy like the Eucharist. This is something that we've talked about before off call. Like the idea of what's happening in the liturgy is everybody's attention is being centered to this one meal, and you're all one, and you should all be loving each other the same way Christ loves you, and that's transformative. Like when you participate in that, in the Pente Church, is none of that going on. It's just a pure show of entertainment. So, um, I guess in that way of practicing my faith, it's transformed me more. Versus with them, it isn't. It's just I go there to be entertained, even though I'm looking for something more, and it's not there.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
so okay, so to move forward into, so you mentioned Speaker's Corner real quick. So
Oh yeah.
how did you as you're serving in Protestant capacity in this part of the story, How did you come across it? Who recommended it to you? The
Yeah,
Speaker's Corner?
yeah. One of my the friend that played the piano, the one I grew up with, the
Okay.
Lutheran piano school. He had
Yeah.
recommended it to me, and we had
Which particular video? Was it a video or just like the entire channel?
it was a couple videos. I think it was I think it was like David Lynn talking to some Muslim about Isaiah 53.
Okay.
Yeah, or something else on the Trinity. Because I
Yeah.
remember I had asked a question one night at service about the Trinity after, and like there was no like, it wasn't really a good response. And my friend was like, "I'll send you
Man.
something after." And I think he sent me a video from Speaker's Corner on the Trinity or something. I never opened
Oh,
it.
okay,
I
okay,
never
I see.
he told me to watch it. I never opened it until later
Okay.
on when I
Was it the same guy, David Lynn?
nah, it was a different dude. I think it was a different guy.
Okay.
But yeah,
Do they accept the creed, by the way? Just because I know there's like a
the
talk
Nicene Creed.
going on recently. Yeah, the Nicene Creed. Yeah,
Depends the Protestant. I mean, it depends what Protestant you'd ask. There's the one.
that's what I mean. Like the Protestants that you were a part of. Like, did you ever hear the Nicene Creed
Oh
like
no,
going around
they
a
don't
little
know.
bit
They don't know what
at
Nicaea
all?
is. No.
Okay. Man,
Sorry.
that's
I
that's
mean,
a low blow.
that's what
That's a low blow.
I'm just being honest.
Maybe one person might know.
I ever since I left, and like I can't take a Protestant serious when they look at church history and they still remain Protestant. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's another topic. Yeah, so Speaker's Corner, so yeah, it kind of spiraled me in that nihilistic path for like a really brief moment, and then
Yeah.
uh I listened to them a bit more, and I realized like the only two, like boiling it down, like the only two religions who really do claim like any sort of objective path, a right way of living, or else you'd face your own consequences in some form of hell later on in the afterlife, was Christianity and Islam. And I remember like
Mhm.
I had another mini conversion experience. I was like praying and crying like right here in my room uh, about that. And then I tried to give both like an open ear. Uh, and then Speaker's Corner, this one YouTuber, this one guy on there, Bob the Builder. If anyone knows Speaker's Corner, they probably know who Bob the Builder is, and he's great at what he does. And his
You know, I tried to look him up. When you told me about him, I tried to look him up. The only thing that came up is the intent, like you know the intent, like what's it called, the cartoon,
oh yeah
the cartoon Bob the Builder.
yeah
That's the only thing that would come
yeah
up.
he has
Like I would never, I can't find. I forgot to tell you this.
yeah
I couldn't find the guy that you were talking
he has
about,
a
Bob the
channel.
Builder.
He has a channel, but he also his some of his other videos and debates were uploaded on this one channel called Soko Films. I'll send it to you after. But
Yeah,
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 he's
that
yeah.
would
So
be cool.
his stuff got me refocused back on Christianity, I guess, and then
Mhm.
the online community that Deacon Hanok and my Eritrean friends put me in pushed me on the path of the
Yeah.
apostolic writers. And this is kind of where it gets into how it's purely intellectual, how I was reading the patristics in scripture, but like my life did not reflect that like at all. Um, and I also was doing it purely just to like win debates and like and bash the atheists and the Protestants and the Muslims online on
Mhm.
Twitter and Discord. So yeah, it was yeah, it wasn't good.
Yeah. You know, it reminded me when you say that. It reminds me of a story that a mutual friend of ours told me, where he was speaking to a Seventh Day Adventist, and I mean, speaking is actually saying a lady. He was
Debated.
debating them. He was demolishing them is actually the term, and so you know he was winning this debate, and they knew it. He knew it, that he was winning. And then finally, you know what it got to? I don't know if you've ever experienced this from like on the other side when you win debates. They saw, like, they looked at him in his eye without flinching and said, "I hope you go to hell."
Oh no, no one's ever told me that. No.
That took me out, dude. Like, I read this one section from Saint Gregory the Theologian where he said debating on like a position
Mm.
is just never fruitful. Like, just don't do that anymore. Is what he said essentially. And I remember reading that like a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, and I just thought, okay, like all these arguments or all these questions that keep popping up about pork, about this, about that, and that's when I had like a different opinion, let's say, of that,
Hmm.
in terms of, I don't think that there's a wrong opinion. Like, I believe there's a right opinion, and I believe the fathers have clearly outlined that when they exposit the scriptures,
Right.
right? And so, but then people that ask those questions, and then in the context that they ask those questions, I don't think they're serious about their faith. Because if
Mm.
they were serious, you know what I mean? Like, that wouldn't be the first question that they have.
Hmm. Hmm.
It would be like kind of like a home with you. Like, it wasn't, you had the intellectual out of it,
Hmm.
but then the whole point of Orthodoxy is to meet Christ in the deepest and most in the highest form. Let's
Hmm.
put it like
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
And so to meet him, that's the whole point of the theology, and like like all of it. And so, yeah, I stopped having those sort of debates because of that.
Yeah.
And then it shifted, like the context in which people approach me with the questions and everything. So people need to have discourse, civil discourse, to figure out, to get to the bottom of things, right? And it piggybacks off of what I was just saying right now too, because when people ask these questions about pork and naman, I'm like, they want like, oh, yes or no, and then like they want to argue with you.
Mm.
Like, they still want to be like, oh, if you say no, this. If you say yes, then this. And then there's camps for both of both of those opinions, let's say. But then with civil discourse, or at least people that approach civil discourse in an honest manner, they usually just come at it from, how can I get to the bottom of this? Like how can we, you know what I mean? Like, try to. And I think that's also like the sentiment behind unbiased news. When people say we want unbiased news, is to say, okay, what's the truth here? I love when people come with true curiosity,
Hmm.
because that's really the only way you learn. Like, that's how
Yeah.
any form of learning occurs, through actual
And I've
trying to get to the
experienced
bottom
that
of
too,
it.
honestly, because when I came back again, like 2019 ish, there's that bit of an intermission period because I was actually in Ethiopia for 2 months that summer. That was the summer I graduated from high school. I had uh I I I remember going back to some of their services just for the sake of like potentially starting a discussion with some of my friends there about it again, and I realized this is just like fruitless. Like it's not going to help. But part of me still
Mhm.
wants to keep doing that.
Why did you think that? Why did you think it was fruitless?
I Because of the way I did it, and and also you can't preach to you can't yeah, it's like the pair of the sword. Like, you can't put seeds on the wayside. You can't put seeds on solid ground. It's not gonna.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's not. Nothing's
Exactly.
gonna sprout up. And
Yeah.
so, well,
Hmm.
maybe, who knows, later on. But and I remember, yeah. So I remember going to discussions like that, or with Muslims online, and just getting excited to just destroy them, and like, and it's like, yeah, this is wrong. Here's this, and this from this writer from this century. So the Trinity was believed in. They had whatever the situation is, and 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 I've contrasted that with the way now, if I ever do have a discussion and not a debate, like just like a calm discussion, it's much more fruitful, and it's also more peaceful to me. Like, I think that's also
Hmm.
an aspect people don't realize. Like, your witness of Christ matters. Like, you can't just go into a debate and try to just destroy them. Uh, and it's better to have like that calm discussion, because they'll be more receptive, but it'll also bring more peace to you because you're not like on edge. I don't think it was totally fruitless, because one of my friends who's Eritrean, who was in that group, actually was baptized Orthodox and wasn't really raised. Definitely, I mean, he was doing the same stuff I was. Like, we were definitely not practicing at all back then, and
Hmm.
he was going to the same Pentecostal group as I was, and he left that Pentecostal group for another like cult-like Protestant group at his university campus. And
Wow.
I remember me.
Wait, cult. Wait, when you say cult, like, can you describe that a little bit?
Oh yeah, he cut all of us off and like
Oh, dang.
yeah, and
It's kind of tough.
like like you have to be rebaptized. There's no baptism outside of this one specific Protestant sect, even though they don't recognize bishops or apostolic succession or whatever the case is. And so yeah, it
Mhm.
was very and they shame you if you leave. They have all these pamphlets again saying this is Islam refuted, this is Judaism refuted, like just like every think of Taoism or whatever sect of Buddha, whatever it is. And so
Mhm.
yeah, it was really bizarre that he went down that road. But then I remember also having a discussion with him about monasticism. He was like, "There's Christian monks," and I'm like, "Bro," because he was also baptized Orthodox, but nominally like me as well. But I guess he just didn't know. But anyway, the reason why I bring up why it's not totally fruitless is because like a week or two ago, he messaged me on Instagram saying, it was like a post. It was like me and my brother or something. Oh, I hope your brothers are good. I want to talk to you about church history. I have some questions I've been looking into, and I was like, oh, wow. And so I guess like it opens up a path
Wow.
in some cases, and I guess
Yeah. It opens up a path eventually when you like.
when you've toned it
I think
down,
we always, anytime we think there's no path, it's usually because we're thinking in such a short term. We're like,
yeah,
okay, it never works out, but then eventually it does. Yeah, I could see that.
yeah,
I've seen that happen a few times before. Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
But it's
No, but the thing I wanted to talk about in terms of like the calm thing, because on right now the service that you're doing, it's not simply just going to church. Because I mean that's the most monumental one. I will say for sure, that's the most monumental one. If you don't do anything at all, like a podcast and bahon, like just
go to church.
the church thing is most monumental, most important. But then in addition to that, you're also doing on Babs, a Bay Area Bible study.
Yes, plug
I
bab.
really like a little bit of a plug, and then also you're doing the podcast. What I was thinking about when I was watching the podcast episode yesterday,
Oh, the second one.
and I was sitting like the second one. Yeah, holy smokes! Yeah, that was really nice, by the way.
Thank you.
Whose idea was it?
I think
The title? Whose idea was that?
no, that one was me. Yeah, Holy Smokes is me. Yeah,
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 that was
yeah.
really good.
Thank you. I don't know if people were gonna think it was
It
corny.
was so like Lord of Spirits esque. Like,
Really?
yeah, I could see them put like doing something like that. I
Yeah,
really could see them
it's
doing that.
trying not to bite their flow, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so no, the thing I was thinking about is when Father Stephen DeYoung, he would go into his like esoteric, like super deep stuff
Mm.
that almost no one will ever understand. When he starts talking about stuff like that, Father Andrew's there to translate.
Yeah,
Like,
he's just there, like he's just listening. He's like, and this means this.
so you mean this? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and he makes it into like a
Internally, I'm
like a
like, thank you, Father
communicable
Andrew,
thing.
because I can't.
Exactly, exactly. And the reason why I'm mentioning that is because like I love the podcast and I think it absolutely makes sense to me. Arle. But then, man, if I was there like in the bunch, I would just be like, "So you mean this? So you mean that?" Actually, one of the things I wanted to ask you actually before we kind of
Mhm.
uh kind of wrap it up a little bit is um so you talked about the patriarchs, Arle,
Uh
on the second one,
oh, sorry.
Abraham.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah, yeah. So I always found it interesting that in the Orthodox tradition, the top of the hierarchy is the patriarch. And I always wondered if there's a commonality of between the patriarch as we understand him now, and then patriarch Abraham for his like lineage, for his family, like families, I should say. So the place that Abraham has for his family as a patriarch is that the same place that a certain patriarch under like a certain church would
Like
have
Abuna Matias, I guess, right?
functionally.
Yeah,
Yes, functionally. Is that the same role?
yeah. Because I guess the etymology is um, well, in Giz, right? It's Kahin. Hebrew it's
Mm-hmm.
Kohen, which I mean, it literally just means elder or like this patriarchal figure, and so
Mm-hmm.
that's Abraham by virtues of his extended family, and then within the Christian church, within the Orthodox church, um, you have it broken down. It's like Orthodox churches. Like there's the Coptic Orthodox Church and the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, and each one
Mhm.
has their patriarchal figure, their Kohen essentially, and that's Abuna
Yeah.
Matthias. And then I kind of see that
Mhm.
as that's then put out into the synod of all these other bishops also have that. And then even the priests are also extensions of the bishop, but they can't ordain and do certain things. So
Exactly.
it
So
kind of
that
it kind
was
of
going to
comes
be my
down.
next question.
Yeah.
That was going to be my next question because if the patriarch, he can't do kadasi everywhere, like he
Right.
can't offer a sacrifice
Yeah.
everywhere, so he has extensions essentially.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Like they're extensions
Through the
of the
bishops, and then they also have the priests. But that elderly patriarchal figure is
Mhm.
Abuna Matthias, and I guess that comes from
Exactly.
the idea of the Kohen, the first patriarchal figure being Abraham.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. The reason why I wanted to ask that is because, again, as you guys were talking, and I loved it. I loved it. Um, I just felt like there was no when I had that question, like if someone asked that question, they'd be like, "Oh, like this is how it's manifesting
You know,
in Orthodox like worship now."
right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so yeah, absolutely. I think just having those conversations in a calm manner. I mean, I definitely benefited from watching. I haven't finished it yet, but
Thank you.
definitely
Yeah. It's
definitely benefited from that.
that's
But yeah. So let me ask this, and then we can close off. So the just a highlight reel. So you were baptized Orthodox, and then you through your friends, you ended up like slowly
being pulled into
merging into
Pentecostal.
the Pentecostal
Yeah.
movement,
Yeah.
and then like so eighth, ninth grade, and then after that, you started to get a little bit more serious about it, and then over time, it was just not deep enough. And then okay, let's say okay, the Mahatab thing
I think that's
that
that was
was
the trigger.
that was the catalyst,
That
right?
was the trigger. Yeah.
Like that was the climax, the
Yeah.
shift. What caused the
Yeah.
shift? Okay, okay,
It
yeah.
wasn't my dad
Um,
saying. I remember him saying one night we were in the kitchen. He was like, "You're getting too far, Kaleabb," and my my older brother, because he came back from Ethiopia with my dad summer 2018 with
mhm.
with our cousin, and then our cousin's friend who's a Muslim, and they're all talking about it because my older brother would come with me to service. Our cousin would come with us to service sometimes, to the Bente service, and even the Muslim over he was living so right next to us. He heard the conversation with me and my dad. He was like, "Yeah, like you got to be careful with these guys." So it's like you know this weird coalition of like the Orthodox and the Muslims, like because I guess the Bentes are more new. I guess is that the logic or
Yeah,
yeah,
like they're just
Muslims,
not
yeah,
a seasoned.
yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry, yeah, that was just a funny
yeah. No,
tangent.
it was a good like tangent, like to explain like how what you said in terms of
The
um.
coalition.
So you started to integrate in there, and then like there's like eyebrows raising with your dad and everyone, but then what actually changed you is a sense of identifying with the culture that you grew up in and someone attacking it for no apparent reason.
Yes,
I don't know. So
yes, yeah.
you were kind of like it was almost anger a little bit if
I
you think
was
about it.
angry.
Yeah, it was anger.
I didn't show up for a while after that. I went home. I was drafting
Oh,
Google Docs. I was like, "Here's this." I was like, "This, bro." I probably still have it somewhere.
man,
Yeah,
that is hilarious.
yeah, yeah.
Again, I think again, it's a testament to the fact that just anything could just return you, like could start your journey. It could be something like some because people expect I don't know. I think I put up like this little question thing on Instagram, and like people are asking these questions, and people assume that because they see the camera or they see like these beautiful things, and then just everything is just perfect
No.
in their from their perspective
Yeah.
from their purview, like everything is perfect from their purview. But then perfection, actual perfection, is like you participating in perfection, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's
Being
Christ. Like
conformed.
actual perfection is participating in perfection. Like you're not gonna be perfect on your own.
Hmm.
Like your life is gonna be messy. But then like if anger is what's gonna motivate you to come back to church, use that. if you know, like anything could be used to come back, and Christ could use that, and you'll never know like how you end up,
I
so don't, because again, I noticed myself like wanting, like, I think when I was younger, I always wanted like a, how movies are just like they have like a plot. You'll always
mm,
know like a rom com how it ends,
yeah.
and you want it to just like, like I want it to be like this, but then I find it, I love that it's
I was gonna say, I mean, also God can change anybody really, like in any circumstance. I don't know how graphic it was the car story. The
the car.
Yeah, it was me and my friends. I,
Oh yeah, and then
oh
okay,
yeah,
I was gonna make a joke about that. I completely forgot
okay. I
about
don't
that. By
know
the
if
way,
that how
like tekus, what was it? Tekus karton.
what
Like in
Martyrs, yeah.
Almaringa, what that, with the word tekus karton. No, like if you look it up in Almaringa, like what is
Oh, is
that?
that what it translates
Like
to?
how
Okay.
bucks?
Yeah, yeah. So this is
I was
not an
gonna make that
endorsement.
joke,
I don't
bro.
want
I
anybody.
completely forgot my notes, man.
Yeah, no, but
I was gonna make a dad joke, but yeah,
yeah.
continue.
So yeah, no. I mean, God can really change anybody. It's I wasn't like it was just purely social. I wasn't like some horrible kid, but but it's mainly to show like we were serious about our faith, but like we had a lot of attachments to sinful things. Like I remember, like we would leave service and hoop, and then like hotbox a car, and then go eat
Yeah,
Chick-fil-A or In and Out after, and
yeah.
but that was like that's all part of I guess like the struggle of trying to get to. I mean, like that's like the attacks of the sinfulness of the world, and then you still
Mhm.
struggling to get to Christ, I guess. And
Yeah.
God's still calling you out.
Let me ask you this though, since you did mention that, like I completely forgot to mention that, but since you did mention that, I want, like, for anyone, part of the reason why we did this in two episodes is so that
Right.
people understand. Okay, so you left the Orthodox Church and then you came like into the like this Pentecostal space, and you, I mean, I'm sure you want it to be genuine
Yeah.
out of that,
Oh yeah. It was genuine. It
but
was.
then yeah, like as you were going through it, you genuinely thought you were being genuine out of it, and I really believe that,
At the conference, at
people
the
that
altar
partake in
call, I'm
these
like
services.
crying, and like it's a super emotional
Yeah, yeah,
experience because they have like the smoke and the piano in the background, and but yeah,
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 man, it's like a stage, it's a concert, but
yeah,
it's even then, like, again, this is why I'm always like, I don't want to be canceled in the sense, because not because I'm scared what people say, it's just that I don't want you to take it the wrong way. I really do think people are genuine when they do that,
yeah.
like when they are partaking in that, but then God leads you one way or another, and then you start to find out, okay, this is the church that John the gospelist, his disciple Ignatius, right?
Yeah,
Like that guy, like which church is that?
yeah,
You know what I mean? And you come to find that out as you're going. And so just trying to be honest, like throughout the process, in the sense that, like, trying to maintain that genuinity and not think that, okay, because I got to Jesus, quote unquote, doesn't necessarily mean like I'm at the end of the road. Like it just means that I have to continue to be genuine,
right.
and then I could continue to allow Christ to lead me wherever He takes me. Because I'm sure when you were in ninth grade, you weren't thinking, I'm going to be part of Babs. I'm going to be starting a podcast.
Playing
You're laughing at
CS:GO
it because
and yeah,
you didn't plan it exactly.
yeah,
And yeah, that's very, very important.
yeah,
Like maintaining that
yeah.
genuinity,
I
and
mean,
seeking that, like,
people, yeah, and people, yeah, it's very genuine. Like I have a cousin, Beanie. He similar trajectory. He left the Orthodox Church because there was no substance really, and then but he knew like there needed to be some sort of a spiritual reality. And he got caught up with the with Protestants, and then that also kind of died down for him similarly over the course of like a couple of years. And he came back to Orthodoxy through the Eastern Orthodox, and
wow,
yeah, and he's actually a monk now under Metropolitan Jonah in Virginia, and
wow,
yeah, yeah,
really?
yeah. And so
Mhm.
and I got to see him when he was a novice when he came out here, but I need to go see him. But yeah, yeah, it's just to say people are genuine when they go on these encounters and they leave
Mhm.
or they're like they're actually looking. So like be open, have a dialogue in peace and calm, and not debate. I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, so I guess that's the entire point that at least what I got from your story. Even though it was like brief, but then as you're doing it, as you're going through it, whatever you're doing, you're trying to be as genuine to the higher calling, but also genuine to your friends. To like, it's there's just a bunch of layers at which you're trying to be genuine. But then I think the highest one is what changes your life.
Mm-hmm.
I guess let's say,
Mm-hmm.
because again, like when you're and this is like what when people ask you these questions, like, oh, one of the questions that comes in on the Enton, like it was, oh, I have friends that do this and that, they vape, and like, should I just avoid them? Like it's a difficult question because again, it's a result of the fragmentation of our culture,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you have friend, like if you were in Ethiopia, I don't know, like 9 times out of 10, your friends are Christian, whether or not they're Orthodox. They're more likely than Orthodox than not,
Something.
but they're Christian. I don't know. So, and the culture is embedded in Christianity already,
Yeah.
or just embedded in like something like deeper, like something old. And so there are these values that are in play. So if you had friends, 9 times they would not be doing the stuff that you're saying. Like, should I avoid them for this? You know what I mean?
Mm.
So even with you with the hot boxing or anything, like you're trying to be as genuine as possible with everything. As you're doing your best, like I guess to make it as simple as possible, you're doing your absolute best to your understanding at that moment.
Yeah.
But then fidelity to the highest, uh, like the highest meaning Christ, the highest God, right? Uh, in your perception is how you end up finding people that are like-minded, essentially,
Right.
eventually,
Right.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
But then like in that limbo period where you're like, I don't know what's going on, like I just need to kind of, and then that's where you find yourself in these situations, and um, yeah,
It's hard.
even like you got to where you need to, and Christ helped. So
Yes. Thank God.
um,
Thank God. That's.
thank God. Yeah, yeah,
I know
absolutely.
people who go
So
on longer journeys, and yeah, yeah,
I mean, eventually, that's the thing. Like, eventually, they'll,
I
God willing, eventually, if they continue to seek, and I guess that's also the lesson. I guess I hope people pick up on is just being genuine and being honest will always bring you to Christ. Like, no matter what. I don't want to give you the answer, like, you know what I mean, because I think people don't like that. They want to find out on their own, but on your own journey, you'll end up at Christ. No, like whether or not you want to. If you're trying to be genuine, it's identical to seeking Christ. Like you're doing the same thing when you're trying to be genuine and when you're seeking Christ.
yeah
So
yeah.
yeah. But yeah, so I guess that's it for the first half of our conversation. And so the next conversation is going to be on um, what's the meaning of theology. Because Nahom, you said earlier that you're intellectually converted,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? But then that didn't really help, like internally, So it begs the question now: when people criticize church fathers, like you would hear uh, the fathers fought for days, for weeks, for months on just one topic or like one word, like the expression of one thing.
Yeah.
Like you would hear like church history like transpire in that manner, like on the Eastern and then the Oriental church,
And
how
the
how they
updates.
separated the Orthodox
Yeah.
church. When you hear about that and how like it's over one like interpretation of one thing, like the nature of Christ, or how you communicate it, or how you understand it, even, and you see like just churches, bro, like a series of churches are just separating off of that one little thing. You would think like theology should just be thrown out the window.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, or any like non-denominational type Christians, I don't know, like, or people that are like love first would think, okay, let's just
Yeah.
throw it out the window. We don't need any more theology. And that's actually one of the critiques of the Orthodox Church too, like because you can convince someone intellectually that we're right and they're wrong, historically speaking, about them.
Mm-hmm.
But then they'll still be like, oh, you see this like super like deep traditionalism, people caring more about the canons and about the laws than about the people. or people that are higher up, like hierarchs, caring more about the laws and the structure and the tradition more than the actual person, more than their congregants. And so we're going to be discussing that um, on the next episode. Like, what's the actual telos? Like, what's the goal of theology? Um, do you want to add anything?
No, that's great. I guess the purpose of theology, the goal, the end goal, the telos, the final destination. Well, we'll get into that, but yeah, the person that really helped, just so people know before we get into it for next episode, is I guess because there was no initial there's no like saints or church father or contemporary Orthodox writer that I read and was like, wow, my eyes are opened, I'm enlightened, like Christianity has to be true. Well, yeah, there's nothing like that. Um, it was just a series of like of like a realization of the historicity of Christianity and like and all these claims. But the person that I did eventually come across and read that helped me understand the purpose of theology and Christianity at all was Father Thomas Hopko. And but yeah, God rest his soul. But he did he's great.
Yeah,
He's great. And,
blessed memory. Yeah.
yeah.
You know, I didn't get to tell you this, but you know who Casisefa is, right?
Oh yeah, the in Kansas or Kentucky, somewhere in the Midwest.
Yeah, Kansas. Yeah.
Okay.
So he talked about. I think he was in the same class as him.
Oh really?
Yeah, he went to Saint Vladimir's. Yeah.
Oh nice.
So he knew. Did he know? I don't think he knew Father Alexander Schmemann. Sadly,
He's
I think he went there in the 1990s, 1991.
yeah. It's probably when
Class of 1991.
that's probably when Father Thomas Hopko was the dean.
Like Father Thomas Hucko, amazing, beautiful.
He's a great guy.
Yeah, so we're definitely gonna discuss him um, on the next episode. So stay tuned. We'll see you next time, guys.